You can draw this in Procreate. During this easy to follow Procreate tutorial, I am going to show you exactly how you can create this colorful, expressive artwork of a castle in the hills. You don't need any experience with drawing or with Procreate. I will take you by the hand and you will end up with a result you'll be proud of. What you need is a canvas of 2,300 pixels by 3,000 pixels. And I have left a link to the color palette in the description. It's totally free. So go get that. And then if you're ready, let's get started. And we are going to start by picking a nice brush. I'd like to go to the drawing section and then use the Oberon brush. And for the color, we will pick this one. That's the 9th color in the first row. And let's set the brush to 100% opacity and the size at 8%. And then first we'll draw our main hill on which our castle will stand. So start about here and then we'll make a hill and it'll go up to about like the halfway point of our canvas. So it'll be a bit like this. And then we'll just color that in. It's not necessary to go all the way down, but yeah, I just like to do that. It'll be covered by other hills. So it'll be something like this. And then you can just duplicate this layer by going to the layer menu and then sliding to the left, tap duplicate, so that it gets really opaque. And then you can just pinch them together. And yeah, now it's about, yeah, this is about the halfway point. Then we'll make some more hills on top of this. We'll tap the plus and now we'll pick a lighter color. Let's use this one, 4th color in the 2nd row, and we'll make a hill on top. But this one is a bit more flat. It's a bit like this, and then we'll color that in again. So it doesn't have to be completely flat, but yeah, it doesn't have this same like bump. Maybe we can put it a little bit lower. You can just do that by going to the Move and Transform tool. Let's set it to uniform and let's turn magnetics on. So I can just slide it down a little bit. Then let's go back to the layer menu, tap the plus, and then pick another color. We'll use this one. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row. And I will make another shape in front. We'll start here and we'll go down a little bit and up like this. Just color this in. And maybe this one is a little bit too high as well. We can just go to the Move and Transform tool, move it down like this, and then tap the arrow again. And maybe we can make this a little bit higher. And then of course you can duplicate these layers again and pinch them together to make it more opaque. Just make sure you don't pinch these layers together. Just duplicate this and pinch these together, and now they are nice and opaque. Then let's tap the plus for a new layer, and this one will drag it to the bottom because we are going to place some hills in the background. And this time we'll use a different brush. We'll go to the painting brushes and use the Salamanca brush. And for the color, let's use this one. That's the 5th color in the 1st row. Let's check the size. Let's go a little bit bigger, like 25%. The opacity is at 100. And then we'll make a big hill here. Just color that in. Make multiple strokes so that it gets more opaque. And then we'll make another one, but we'll pick a different color. We'll pick this one, 4th color in the 1st row. And let's make another hill over here. It's a bit more pointy. like this. Then we'll make this one a little bit broader, and we'll make another layer on top of this. We'll tap the plus, and then for the color, we'll move to this one, 6th color in the first row, and we'll use that for a big hill over here. And just make multiple passes. And then let's make another one over here. We'll use that other color for that. That's the 7th color in the first row. And let's make a smaller one here. Next, we are going to add a color to our sky. So let's tap the plus for a new layer, drag this layer to the bottom, and then for the color, we'll use this one, 1st color in the first row. Let's drag it on there, and then let's paint in some clouds. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, and for the color, let's use this one, 3rd color in the first row. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, maybe like 13%. And then let's create these fluffy clouds with these rounded motions. And the underside will be a bit flat. Let's make another one over here. So just these rounded motions, flat underside. Another one here. Maybe a small one here. Now what you can also do is tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to this Salamanca brush. Let's make the size of it smaller, like 20%. And then you can use that on the undersides to make that a bit more flat. But keeping that same texture. Then let's turn on alpha lock on this layer by tapping the layer and then tapping alpha lock, and then let's switch to this color, 2nd color in the first row. Let's make the brush a little bit bigger, 25%, and let's go over the underside, adding a bit of that slightly darker blue, again with rounded motions. Then once you're happy, you can pinch this layer with the sky layer together, and then we'll move on to these hills. Let's start with these. Let's tap that layer and turn on alpha lock, and then for our brush, let's switch to the jagged brush, and let's add some color variety here. For instance, we can pick this color, 5th color in the first row, and add a little bit on top of this one. By the way, the opacity of this brush is at 90%. Let's set the size to 15. And we'll add some variety. We can also pick this color. You can also just tap and hold your finger on your screen and very gently add some variety. We can do the same here. And let's also add a little bit of a greenish color, like this one, 6th color in the 2nd row. Add a slight touch by using little pressure, and then let's go to this layer, and again let's tap it and turn on alpha lock, and let's add some color variety here as well. Some more green on this hill. We can also switch to this color, 6th color in the first row, add a little bit of that at the top. And then let's also add a bit of this 10th color in the first row, a little bit at the bottom. It adds some nice variety. Now let's go to this one. Let's pick this color, a 7th color in the 2nd row, and let's add some of that to this hill. Just a few strokes. Next, let's add some variety and texture to our hills in the front. Let's start with this one. Tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and this time for the brush, let's use the Nico roll. And for the color, let's start with this 10th color in the first row. We are going to use these 3 colors and this one for this hill. And let's lower the opacity a bit to 65%. And let's set the size maybe to 15. Let's see. We can go a little bit bigger. How about 30? Now let's go over this center part a bit. Adding some of that lighter green. Then I also want some of this darker green, the 8 color in the first row. Let's add that to this side a bit. And we can move back and forth between these colors, of course. So you can also go back to this 9th color in the first row, which is also part of like this textured gradient. And I also want to use this color, first color in the second row on this side, but maybe we can make the base a little bit lighter first. We'll use this 10th color in the first row, go over that area first like this, and then we can make it even lighter with this first color in the second row. You get a nice layering. Then let's move forward to this layer. Let's tap it, turn on alpha lock, and here let's add a bit of this color, 5th color in the second row. Adding that nice texture. And here we can also add a little bit of this first color in the second row. Just a touch. And maybe here we can go a little bit darker again with this one. That's the 5th color in the second row. That looks nice. Then we'll move on to the layer in the front. Again, tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then let's move to this color. That's the 6th color in the second row. Add a little bit of that over here in that center area. And then for some darker colors, let's use this one, 8th color in the first row, to add some darker texture in our foreground. Now we can go even darker by using this one, 2nd color in the second row. Very gently, just a few strokes. Now it's time to create our castle. Let's do that on a layer underneath this hill. So we'll tap this layer first, then we'll tap the plus, and then for our color, we'll use this one, 8 color in the second row. And I'd like to use the selection tool for this. Let's go to the selection tool, the S shape ribbon, set it to freehand, and then use color fill. And let's start at the top. Let's start about here. Make a line going down like this, then to the right, then up again, and then connect. This is our first tower. Then let's make another one over here, a thinner one. And it can also be a little bit wonky. You could go for a slightly diagonal line to make it playful, then go to the right. And then here you need to be careful that it doesn't connect. So you can zoom in, that'll make it easier. Go to here and then connect. Then let's zoom out again and make another one here to the left. But of course you can also go for your own castle design. Let's go here, then go down, a little bit to the right. Here we need to be careful again, zoom in, go up and connect. Then let's make a layer on top of this. So go to the layer menu, tap the plus, and then for the color, we'll pick this one, 10th color in the second row, and I will make like I'm not sure what they're called, like the pointy parts on top of the towers, like the roof. So we'll go to the selection tool again, and I'll make a shape. You can just draw like this to the top, then down, and then connect like this. Then make a smaller one here, up, down, and then to the left, connect, and then over here as well. And it's okay if they are a little bit wonky. It'll add to like the playfulness of this artwork. Then turn the selection tool off, and you could go in here with your eraser. You could set your eraser to the Oberon brush and make it a bit small, like 7%. And you could go, well, we need to go smaller. How about 1%? And you can go along some of these edges and perhaps make some parts a bit more crisp or more rounded. And that way you'll keep that nice texture in your illustration. Then let's make some more on top of this. Let's tap the plus for a new layer, and then we'll go back to this color, 8 color in the second row, and use the selection tool again. And I would like to add like a broader tower here in front. So let's start about here, go down, then overlap with this one a little bit. So go to here, then up, and then connect. And now let's make another one over here, which is also overlapping a little bit, but it's lower. Start here, go down to the right, maybe a little bit more, something like this. So we have a little gap here, and then connect. Then let's make a new layer on top of this for the towers, but we can't really see the edges right now of these shapes. So let's turn these off. Or maybe, well, what we can do is we can just add a new color to these. Let's use the 9th color, drop that on these shapes just so we can see them, and then we can change back later. Then go to that new layer, and then pick the red color again, 10th color in the second row, and then use the selection tool. And then for this one, I'd like a slightly different type of roof. Maybe start here, stop, then to the right, make it a little bit wonky. And for this one as well, let's make the top flat. And then again, you can use the eraser, adjust it a little bit, add that nice texture. Like this. And then we can change the color again for these towers. So let's pick that light color again, 8 color, drag it on there. And now before we continue with the rest of the castle, let's add some shading to these towers. Let's start here, tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, then pick this 9th color in the second row. And for our brush, let's go to the Salamanca brush and maybe make it a little bit smaller. How about 7%? Let's see. That's actually nice. So we'll go along the right side of the tower and also right here underneath the roof. And also here where that other tower is blocking the light. And for this one, and this, and then for the other ones, let's go to this layer, tap it, turn on alpha lock, and then let's shade these as well. using very light pressure. Then underneath the roof. All right, now I think we could move our castle up a little bit. I'd like to have a wall around it, and I need some more space. So let's select these layers that we have for our castle. Then go to the Move and Transform tool and move it up a little bit. I think something like this will do. Then let's make a new layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus. And then let's pick our 8 color in the second row again and use our selection tool. And let's make 2 more towers right in the front. Let's start here, go down a little bit to the right, then up like this, and connect. And then another one over here. And we can also make one over here. Then this, well, these need a little towers, little roofs. Let's tap the plus and again pick that red color, 10th color in the second row, go to the selection tool, move in here and make like these pointy hats. And again, they can be wonky. It'll just add to the character. And again, you can use the eraser if you want to go in there and tidy some things up, add even more character or some texture. And then again, let's go to this layer, tap the layer, turn on alpha lock and add some shading here. So we'll use the Salamanca brush again with this 9th color in the second row. And let's shade the sides a bit and underneath that roof. And then we need a wall. We're going to place the wall underneath this. So first we need to go to this layer, then tap the plus, and then we'll pick the 8 color again in the second row, then go to the selection tool, and then we'll draw a wall. So we'll make a line like this, and then also over here. Then go back, loop around, and close it. And then I want to remove parts of it. So let's tap remove here, then go in here, and we'll make these little squares like this. And also over here, we'll do the same. And these as well, they can be a little bit wonky. Adds to the character. And then tap the selection tool to get out of there. And then for this layer as well, tap it, turn on alpha lock, pick that 9th color, and then add some shading. You can make this a bit more grayish. And here as well. We're imagining the light is coming from this direction. So this wall will be a bit darker. And we can also add some more shading to the walls on the inside. For instance, on this layer, we can add some shadow here because that wall is blocking light. And also here. This looks nice. Now let's go to the roofs. We can't actually put them all on one layer. We can just move them together to the top like this, and then pinch them together to save some layer space, and then tap that layer and turn on alpha lock. Now let's add some color variety here. For instance, we can add a little bit of this 9th color in the 3rd row. And then with the Salamanca brush, go over the sides. A bit like this. And we can also add some light on the other side with this color, 8th color in the 3rd row. And you can also add the effect of tiles on here. Let's make a new layer on top. Let's tap the plus, then tap that new layer and set it to clipping mask so that whatever we draw here, it'll only show up on these roofs. And then for our brush, we'll go to the inking brushes and use the Inka brush over here. And for the color, we'll use this one, 10th color in the 3rd row. You have already come this far. I'm so proud of you. I hope you are enjoying this tutorial. And if you are doing that, then I think you might like my tutorials at Patreon as well. I think I have more than 250 Procreate tutorials by now. And those tutorials have such a wide variety when it comes to subjects, to techniques, to difficulty levels. So I'm sure you'll have loads of fun there. And you can really work on making those drawing muscles even stronger. So I will just leave a link for you down in the description if you want to check it out. It will be great to see you there. But now let's continue. Opacity of the brush should be at 100%. The size can be set to around 3%, nice and small. And then you can go in here for each of these roofs and make these lines like this. All the way to the top. And then you can add these tiles. You could just make lines, or you can make these like scales almost. Doesn't have to be tidy. It's just a nice texture effect. So you could make like a very long, like W going on and on and on. And then you can do that for all of the roofs like this. And then what you can do is tap this layer and turn this, set this to alpha lock. And then you can go, for instance, to the Oberon brush and then pick this lighter color, that 8th color. And now we can go in here and lighten up some of these tiles. That's a nice effect. Nicely integrating them. And just do this on the left sides. Like this. Then let's add some windows to our castle. Once you're happy with this, by the way, you could merge all the castle layers together, or you can select them like this and then group them. That way, everything will stay a bit more organized. But now let's go in here and let's make a layer on top of like the base of the castle. Let's tap the plus. For the brush, we'll go to the Inka brush again. And for the color, we can use this one, 10th color in the 3rd row. And we can just draw in some little windows. Very simple. And then for a door, well, let's stick with this color. Then let's tap and hold the eraser to make it switch to the Inka brush. Let's make that a bit small, 3%. And then you can make a little cross. And in this case, we can also turn on alpha lock, grab another brush. Let's go to the painting brushes again and use the Salamanca. You can add a bit of red of this 9th color in the 3rd row. Add a bit of red to the windows, just making them blend a bit more. And here, perhaps we can use some of this greenish color. That's the 7th color in the 2nd row, but maybe you would like your door to have a different color. All up to you. Let's go for something like this. Then we can go back to the inking brushes, to the Inka brush, pick that dark color again, 10th color in the 3rd row, and we can just add this line, maybe a little line around there. Now let's also add a few flags. Let's do that on this layer as well. We can turn alpha lock back off. You can also do that with 2 fingers sliding to the right. Stick with this color, and then for instance, let's add one over here. Let's make a line going up, and then a simple little flag like this. And we can go a little bit lighter. We can use this color, 9th color in the 3rd row. But yeah, your flags could also have a different color. You can really customize your own castle. Now, of course, the environment needs some extra. We need some plants, some flowers, a few trees, and we need a path leading to our castle. Let's start with that. Let's close our castle group, and we can actually also merge our background layers together. And then let's make a layer on top of this one. Let's tap the plus and set this layer to clipping mask so that our path will only show up on that hill. For the brush, I like to stick to the Inka brush. And for the color, we'll go for this. First color in the 3rd row. And let's make a line starting here, and then let's rotate a bit. Starts here and then moves in this direction. So something like this. And now that we have this, we can make it a bit thicker. We can make our brush a bit bigger, maybe like 11%. We can go in here, make it a bit thicker, but we still have that nice irregular texture. If you need to carve it, you can switch to the eraser. We already have that set to the Inka brush. And make sure that the path is thinner, closer to the castle, and it'll become broader as we move to the viewer. So that's one. Now let's go to this hill. Let's tap this layer, tap the plus, set the new layer to clipping mask, and then let's move on to the next color, 2nd color in the 3rd row, and let's make the path here. So it's going behind this hill downward. You can't see how it connects. Then move on to this layer, tap the plus, set the new layer to clipping mask, and let's move on to this color, 3rd color in the 3rd row. And here it'll move like this to our foreground. Let's color that in. And of course, you can add some texture to this path. Now let's start with this one. Let's tap the layer, turn on alpha lock. Then let's go to the painting brushes and use the Nico roll brush. Let's pick the lighter color, 2nd color, and let's go over here Add a little bit of that. Then let's also use the Oberon brush. Let's make that a bit smaller, 2%. And add some of these like pebbles. And then to make these fade a bit more, we can go back to the nickel roll brush, pick that darker color again, third color, and go over that just to fade it a bit. I don't want it to be like too prominent. Now let's move back to this one, tap that layer, turn on alpha lock, and with this darker color, add a little bit of texture here. And then on to this one, tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and then switch to the second color here, and then add a bit of texture here as well. Then finally, for some plants and grass and all that stuff, let's first make a layer on top of our, well, actually underneath our castle. Let's go here, let's tap the plus, and then let's go to the drawing brushes for the Oberon brush, and then let's pick this color, a seventh color in the second row, and let's create a bush over here. And maybe we can see a little bit over there as well. And we can also make a tree. Let's pick this color, second color, and the second row. So you can make a little floating shape. You can also make the brush a bit bigger, 8%, so you get a bit more texture on the edges. Something like this. And for another tree, let's use this color, fourth color in the second row. Let's make that over here. Then for more texture, we can tap the layer and turn on alpha lock. Then let's use one of the painting brushes. We can use the nickel roll again. And let's use this color, 10th color in the first row. Let's add a little bit of that over here. Let's make the brush a bit smaller, 9%. We can also add a bit of that over here. We can just play around with these colors. Let's pick this one, 8 color in the first row. Play around with this to add that texture. And then let's turn off the alpha lock and go to the Inka brush in the inking section. Pick this dark color, third color in the second row. And here let's just make some lines like this, some extra texture. And for this one, we can make like the branches. Let's also pick this color again, 8 color in the first row. For some branches over here, very subtle. And then let's also pick this color, second color in the third row for this tree trunk. That's very nice. Then let's also add some bushes in front of our castle. So let's go here, then tap the plus, then pick the Oberon brush again. What you can also do, by the way, is just go to the top of your brush library, go to recent, and find your brushes there. So let's use the Oberon brush, then this color, 7th color in the second row, and let's make a bush over here as well. Let's make the brush a little bit smaller, 2%, to make it a little bit more crisp. Then we'll tap the layer, turn on alpha lock, and add some more texture. Let's stick with this brush. Let's use this color, 8 color in the first row. Make the brush bigger again, 8%. Make some of these rounded motions. And then we'll go even darker with this color, second color in the second row. Making some smaller shapes. And then we can also go to the Inker brush and add some branches. All right, now to really bring this to life, we are going to add more texture, grass and plants. Let's go in there. Let's start on a layer on top of this. Let's tap the plus and let's pick the Inker brush. And for the color, maybe we can start with this one. That's the 7th color in the second row. First, I'll make the brush smaller, 3%. I'd like to add like little things here on top of these hills. So if they have hairs almost, like little grass. Just a little extra that makes these hills look extra interesting and playful. And then let's move on to the grass here. Let's pick a lighter color like this one, 6th color in the second row. But you can definitely go ahead and play around with the colors here. I'll also make little dabs. You don't have to stick to my colors completely. We can also use this one, 5th color in the second row. So some colors will be a little bit subtle. You won't see them very well. And some will be more prominent. You can also use some blue like this one, 4th color in the first row for some little blue flowers. And we can also go for some red. Maybe this color, 8th color in the third row. Also for some flowers. We're just creating these little dabs. And maybe also some of this 2nd color in the third row. For some lighter plants. Maybe we can go even lighter. Let's go for this one. 1st color in the third row. Some little white flowers. And just continue doing this. Let's also pick this color, first one in the second row. Continue doing this until you have filled it nicely with these textures. Now let's also add another tree here. Let's go and pick the Oberon brush for that. Let's use a dark color. This one, 2nd color in the second row. We can just go ahead, create a little tree here. Make the brush smaller, 2%. And then back to the Inker brush. Let's pick this darker color, 3rd color in the second row. And then we'll add a tree trunk. And just these lines like this. Keep it simple. All right, now let's continue and move forward. Now let's go and add a layer on top of the others. We can just go to the top. Let's tap the plus. And let's make our Inker brush a little bit bigger, maybe 7%. And we'll continue doing this. Let's just pick colors like the 7th color here and create grass. And just use multiple colors. You can do whatever you like. You can also use blue again. Let's use this one right now, 7th color in the first row. You can use a combination of this blue and also pick that lighter one again, 4th color, or maybe even the first one. You can go for the first. Now let's also add some flowers with this 8th color in the 3rd row. Nice and messy. Then let's move to the front. Let's pick this color, 2nd color in the 3rd row. You can make some bigger plants. So you just make a line like this and then add little leaves. Just keep it nice and messy. This is a lot of fun because you can be so messy. It'll make it look even better if you just let go. Just create something expressive. Let's switch our color. Maybe use some of this 8th color in the first row. That will be a bit more subtle. But also here we can use some lighter colors like that blue. This 7th color in the first row. And even some of that 1st color in the 3rd row. Then let's also add some rocks. Let's make a new layer. Let's tap the plus. Let's pick the Oberon brush. And for the color, let's pick this one. Maybe this one. Let's go for this. That's the 4th color. Now let's start with this. We'll start with the 10th color in the 3rd row, and then we'll add that later. Let's make some nice big rocks. Adding some bigger things here in the foreground will really nicely add depth to the scene. Let's also add some smaller rocks. One over here. Then we can set this layer to alpha lock, and we can use the Nico roll brush, and then we'll pick that 4th color here in the 3rd row, and let's add a little bit of texture on these rocks. Then I'd like to add some big flowers to the foreground. Let's make another layer. Let's tap the plus. By the way, once you're happy with your hills, or at least with like the pathways, you could pinch those together if you need to save some layer space. So we have the hills with the road connected to them. You can definitely merge those, or anything you're happy with. We are just going to work on the foreground now. So we have a new layer at the top. We are going to use the Oberon brush. And for the color, let's start with this one, 10th color in the second row. And let's make a big flower here, like a poppy. Just color that in. You could also make the brush bigger, 8%. You get a bit more texture then. But it might be a bit too much, so you can switch to the smaller size, clean it up a little bit. And let's also add some here. And a smaller one here. And let's also create a pink one with the 6th color in the 3rd row. So now we just have like the petals. Now we can turn this layer, set it to alpha lock. Then let's stick with the Oberon brush. And let's make it a bit bigger. That's 8%. And let's pick some darker colors like this one. 9th color in the 3rd row. Let's go over underside. I actually want to go for maybe the jagged brush. Let's see. Let's make that smaller, 6%. That's nice. A little bit over here and here. And let's also use a little bit of this color, 8th color in the 3rd row on top of this one. Or maybe a little bit here as well. Just some nice variety. And then a bit of this. That's the 7th color in the 3rd row. That gives some really nice variety. Then let's use the inker brush again. And we'll pick this color, 10th color in the 3rd row. So we can add a core like this. And we can add some of these lines. Following the curve of the flower. And for this one, let's use this color, 10th color in the 2nd row. Make that a bit more subtle. And then we just need stems. Let's make those on a layer in between the rocks and the petals. Let's tap the plus. Then let's use this color, 3rd color in the 2nd row. And let's just make these lines going down. You can add some leaves. And here as well, it can be a little bit messy, a little bit wonky. Maybe some like grass. Yeah, I like this. Let's also use this color, 5th color in the 3rd row for some more lighter colored grass. And what you can also do, what's also fun, is just make like an outline of a leaf. It can also be a nice effect in this style. So we're just filling the foreground a little bit. And then I think we can call our castle in the hill finished. I hope you had fun creating your own artwork, and I hope to see you next time for the next tutorial.